In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to create these borders around the images and also how to change the borders into another color like red here whenever my mouse goes over them so that we can tell what our mouse is over. To add borders, we're not going to need to change anything about the actual content on our web page. All we're going to need to do is change something about how it looks. And whenever we're changing how the web page looks, what we're going to do is go up to the styles up here into our CSS. And so everything between this open style here and this closed style here is what tells us how our web page is going to look. And in particular, we want to change how our image looks. So we're going to go to this img tag, the rules for the image. Right now we only have that one rule. We're going to add another rule. And the rule is going to be border. We're going to give it a border. So you'll type in border, colon, and then there's three things we need to tell the border. First, we need to tell it how big it is, how thick it's going to be. Then we need to tell it if it's going to be a dotted or a solid line. And then we also need to tell it what color the border is going to be. So I'm going to put in, just for starting, 1 pixel, so 1 px, then a space, and then I'm going to have a solid border, so I'll type solid. And then I'm going to make my border, let's make mine dark green. There we go. So 1 px is how wide it'll be, solid is it'll be solid instead of dotted, and dark green is going to be the color. Now if I go over here and I refresh my page, you'll see that both my images have this green border around them. Now I don't think that border looks very good. There's a few other things we can change. For one, in my other game I had these a little bit more rounded instead of just being squares like this, and it made it look, I think, a little smoother. So I want to round out these corners. To do that, I'm going to say border, and then dash radius, colon, and then I'm going to give it another pixel value. So bigger values will make it more round. So if I do 10, it'll curve like this. If I did something like 100, it'll curve a lot. It'll be like very curved. If I did 1, it would be just a little bit curved. So you can go ahead and pick whatever values here you like. I usually go with 10, but it's up to you. And then there's one other thing I want to change a little bit. So right now, this green border here is very, very close to my image. I'd like it to be out a little further so we have a little bit more space around the image. And to do that, I'm going to change something called the padding. And the padding tells us how much space I want to put in between the border and the image. So I'm going to add one more rule called padding, and then we're going to give it a distance of how much padding we want to have. So I'm going to say 10 pixels for now. If I reload this, you'll see now there's a little bit more space around this. Obviously, if I made this a bigger number, like 30, we have a lot of space around it. If I made it a small number, like 1, we'd have only a tiny bit of space. So I'm probably going to go with, I'm going to try 15. Again, pick whatever looks right to you. And that looks pretty good. Those look like nice borders for our images. The next thing I want to do is add the hover effect to these images so that when our mouse is over them, the border changes color and we can tell that we're about to select one of them. We can click on one of them. And so to do that, in our images here, so right now what we have is we have this image tag, and the image tag says, the image rule here says, for any image I see on this web page, any image on this web page, it's going to have these styles. It's going to have these rules like applied to it. This is what it's going to look like. So we still want those rules, but we also want another set of rules that says if I'm an image and if the mouse is over me, then I want to, for example, change my border color to dark red or something like that. So to do that, it's still an image tag. So we're going to type img, but then we're going to put a colon and type in hover. And so this says any image that my mouse is hovering over is going to have this different set of rules applied to it. Now, for the most part, this is going to look the same. We're actually going to use a lot of the same things. So I'm going to copy this real quick because most of these rules are going to stay the same. If I refresh it now, you'll notice I hover over it and nothing will change because the rules are exactly the same for if we have a normal image versus if we have an image that we're hovering over. But if I change this to something like dark red, oh, dark red is apparently not a color. How about maroon? Maroon is a color. There we go. And now I refresh the page and I hover over them. Now you'll see whenever I'm hovering over an image, it changes from this set of rules down to this set of rules whenever my mouse goes over it. You can change anything else you want about this too. We could make the border bigger and then it would get thicker when it goes over it. You can make it, you can style it however you want. Just pick something that you think looks nice. Personally, I like this. I like that the border just changes color. There you go. We now have a hover effect for our buttons, and I think that looks really good. In the next video, we're going to actually look at adding those click functions back to our mouse because they're a little bit broken right now, and then also adding in some code to make this auto clicker actually click every second. And it's really nice to be able to see what you have your mouse over in CSS. So that'll be useful.